dreaming big is not the issue. A lot of people say this like, oh, dreaming big is the biggest issue. I should have never dreamt big, put all my eggs in one basket. However, I don't think having these really high goals for yourself or these high standards are necessarily bad. Once again, it's the way that you go about it. I'm a huge visionaire myself, and I understand there are many ways in which you can go to the wrong road. But here I want to kind of give tips on how to really create your goals and how to make them sustainable enough that you can actually experiment with it. And the real, I guess, process is not you actually failing each goal, but for you to actually see which one is right for you. This video is not only inspired by my reset series, but also just something that I hold very deeply into my heart because, once again, I am a visionaire, and doing this so many times have given me a lot of lessons that I've learned throughout this process. And so I hope that from yo girl that has failed so many times on her goals but has learned throughout her mistakes onward, that maybe this can be helpful to you. And without further ado, let's get on to the video. Reflection. Not a lot of people think that this is very impactful, but I wanted to start off any tip before you even begin to go off and do goal planning and look at this video and, whatever the case may be. It's like you need to understand how to first approach this whole sustainability. I think sustainability has to come with reflection, because reflection can open so many outlets, whether you find out more about yourself or you just kind of accept what has happened in the past. For example, let's just pose this idea that, you weren't eating cleanly for a couple of months. The process would kind of go in your reflection that, I haven't been eating cleanly for the past couple of months. I can't change that, but it's what happened, and I accept and take accountability for the fact that I wasn't able to really eat cleanly and really just eating kind of more unhealthy foods that are bad for my body during this time. But then you kind of think about, and this is very natural, or at least for me, is like I think about, but like, why have I been doing this, And for example, maybe I'm a stress eater, maybe I emotionally eat and I feel like food is the only outlet for me, or hey, like I've just been eating a lot because, a lot of changes are happening, and I feel like the one thing that's stable for me is food. Food is somewhere that I can run to, and that's not what I can find in a lot of my life, etc., etc. Oftentimes there's so much more depth in the reason why we do things, whether it's for good or whether it's for bad. And so kind of establishing that and kind of finding your own way to reflect through that is really awesome. And then finally, the next step is acceptance, right? So you're not going to beat yourself up over the past. As much as it's something that is something that you don't want, it's happened. And there's no purpose in beating yourself up over something that you can't control or rewind. But something I will give you guys a sense is now it's time for accountability, and now it's time for hope, right? Because even if these situations happened, you can grow out of it. And that's the beauty of the reset series. But before you even begin, you need that sense of closure from your past, so that your past doesn't haunt you, so your past doesn't give you an excuse and makes you, I guess, rebound back into your old habits. And so that's why I think this is a very important pointer. And yeah. I think this is super duper important because it basically helps you prioritize. And I think this can actually create more feasible goals. And so here I basically wrote down a couple of sample goals, okay? So these are not necessarily my goals, but I was kind of thinking of what y'all might want. And so I just kind of put some stuff that I feel like really helped me, or things that I feel like others might have as goals, all down here. And so chunking your goals is basically just kind of understanding the patterns, similarities, or contrasts between your goals, because oftentimes they're very intertwined. So for example, let me start with underlining eat cleanly, right? So I'm just gonna say, okay, that's just one section. Then I say, okay, we're gonna gain more muscle. That's kind of with my body. Exercise more regularly, also related to my body. Meditate, yeah, but I think it's more mental health. So I guess I'm just gonna kind of underline that in blue. Sing more. This actually helps with my anxiety, and so I'm just gonna be like, okay, this is more something that helps me emotionally. Writing poetry, this can go either way, but let's just say that this is kind of my downtime hobby, so I do that. Now academics, this is definitely not my downtime hobby. I think this is something that I do prioritize though. And let's say reading science articles, because this perhaps goes with my profession, right? So then I go like, okay, science articles, cool. Now I just created this, I'm like, okay, now you're like, Christine just underlined this in completely different colors. What does this mean? Well, I can say, hey, looking at the pattern of this all relating to my physical health, this is something that I really want to focus on, my physical health. Now, all right, looking at these three, right? What does these three represent? Well, to me, I see this as my mental health. I really want to focus on my mental health. Now, finally, it goes with the idea, okay, now what are these, right? Academics, reading science articles. What do I really want to see in this? Well, I understand that, hey, this is actually something I want to do for my career. And so the three things that you really have as a goal is your physical health, your mental health, and your career. These are things that you want to prioritize. This is what you kind of want to frame your life in this period of time in your life. And so creating this can help you really understand what kind of goals you want and also allow you to understand what you want to prioritize. And I think doing this makes it a little less daunting because now you kind of know what your value systems are. And by understanding your value systems and kind of seeing the broader version of your goals, I think that can really help you on forward to kind of differentiate each goal instead of just kind of being all mangled into one and not really knowing what to do. So this one is a very, very rough draft. I'm trying, guys, but something is that you guys can search any printables online. A lot of them are for free, so yeah, or you can make your own. I just kind of made a very rough sketch of what a habit tracker entails of, and so pretty much you just write habits that you want. And what I really want for anyone who does this to do is really look in specific on what they want. So for example, if your goal is to gain more muscle, then maybe you wanted to do it in your ab area and say, hey, I want to do 50 crunches for a day. And so kind of going through that, I think, is super duper important. So yes, you can do each day in as you filled or not. And so I made a very, I guess, fill out of this one, which means 2 days it hasn't happened. That is okay. I admit that I am such a perfectionist when it comes to habit tracking that I'm not sometimes able to, I guess, look at some of the things that are my mistakes, but that is fine. There are days when you need rest days, especially if you're starting new habits. It's never going to be perfect, and so keep that in mind when you're doing these habit trackers. Something else I really do value about habit trackers is, for example, you've done 50 crunches consecutively, but for example, learning a song once a week, none of them are filled, or maybe just one, and then the rest are just not. If you really start to see that learning a song once a week becomes very pressuring and it just doesn't feel right to you, and you just realize that this goal doesn't really seem right, I think it's best for you to know, hey, I'm not gonna really add this and maybe refine this particular goal into something else or something like that you wanna do for your goals. And I think by doing that, it really allows you to look at kind of how you've done in a month with your goals, and it keeps you accountable, and it also allows you to see what works for you and what doesn't. Because oftentimes I know that a lot of videos are like, yeah, here are your goals and all that stuff, but I wanna show a more realistic approach to goals, which is that not all the time when you make a goal, it's not always the best for you. And so, yeah. so this is kind of my planner from the past, and if you open on just a sample page, pretty much this was more academic, so please don't be too overwhelmed, but I'd basically highlight the places that I finished my tasks in, and I'd really try to even do organizational systems. So for example, I say go to all of the meetings. I don't know why that made me sound like a business person. I say 1, 2, 3, 4, meaning I had to go to 4 meetings that day, and I literally circle each meeting that I went to as a way to signify that I went to that meeting. And so that's really awesome. And if you go down here, weekly to do is, I just said work on executing clubs well, because I did run some clubs in my school. And then finally it says here, which is God is my savior, I love you. The note section for me personally was made for just motivation and kind of pushing me through towards times, and this is something that I really do value. But once again, everyone's values is different. This was just what I wrote personally, and I guess if I'm to maybe flip a page, whoa, this is a page. Now, I'm not gonna show too much about this. I don't want it to focus at all, so it's gonna kind of look blurry from here, but my planning system would pretty much be I'd write something down, and when I'd write something down, once I went through that event, I'd highlight it and it would be all good. So once again, planners are super nice, and I really recommend you guys. And if this way can kind of be a way that you can use your personal planner, I would highly recommend that. A lot of the times we don't have a plan. When situations arise during our whole shifting process and trying to change for the better, when we meet these obstacles, we intentionally go back to rebound, because rebound is where we know next to go. But instead of choosing the rebound option, why don't you just create a plan B? So like if something goes wrong, like for example, you worked out way too hard and you got injured. Well, instead of being like, oh, I won't exercise today, and then it kind of goes downhill from there, why don't you be like, okay, maybe I can do some yoga? You know, like it doesn't always have to be this hard regimen of like always staying in this one consistent goal, but rather being like, this is very fluid, and understanding that the process is fluid and kind of creating other alternatives that you can do other than that can still be part of your goal can really, really help. Another thing that I really do recommend is if you're gonna make a plan B, I think it's really awesome if you can actually write it down in a piece of paper or a notebook or just something like that, so that like when you are really confused and don't really know what to do, you actually have a list of options that you could visually look at, so that it's just less daunting. Before you even begin, don't just go blindly and excited. I know sometimes the excitement can get to you, and I've been in the same shoes, but when you do that and you finally go out and do whatever you want to do and it just doesn't work out in your favor, it like sucks, because you could have spent a little bit more of that excitement and that burnout, and really could have managed that burnout if you just kind of took some time to first prepare your space before even beginning. It's like studying, right? Like you're not just gonna go straight in if you don't even have a pencil or paper to like work with, like you need the materials before you can even begin to, I guess, get your brain going and studying the material through that. And so for me, I think it's kind of the same process with goal planning. Get your materials. If you're into fitness, get your fitness materials, get your fitness videos and playlists maybe that you can have, and which once again can maybe have some plan B alternatives if there are down days. That can even apply to mental health, like you can create your meditation playlist, you can, I don't know, like do all these other things, like maybe get your journals ready, or even if it's not journaling, I know I talk about that a lot, but I think there's so much power into just kind of creating your space and making sure that you have the resources to even begin, so that by the time you do, it's not like you're lacking anything. And obviously I understand there's a lot of precautions to this, understanding that if this is a very new process for you, you kind of learn as you go. But I think that's something that you have to accept and all of that, but I don't think it would hurt to at least try your best to start off with some resources to, I guess, kickstart the new beginning. Obviously this video was very, like upbeat and a lot of goal planning and all that stuff, and I hope that this video was able to kind of help you through crafting your goals in a realistic way. But also, I do want to say that for people who do feel overwhelmed, it's completely natural, and I hope that this video is just a way for you to kind of relieve that anxiety. Obviously, I know goal planning is so much more. You have to put it into action, and obviously the Reset series will be covering more of that, but I just want to say that as I'm posting content, and it's not going to always come in your face like that, I just want to give you that reassurance that even if you have these goals, it's never a false statement to dream big, and it's always just something that you just need to remind yourself to be realistic with. And I hope that this video is kind of giving you an idea of how you can realistically and create sustainability towards your goals. You know, creating goals is a completely different process, and I know that it is definitely difficult, but I'm wishing the best for you guys. So if you guys want, comment down below what kind of goals you guys are having and all of that. So thank you so much for supporting. I post every Sundays and Wednesdays. Next video will be coming up on the Sundays, so make sure to subscribe, stay tuned, and yeah. That being said, I really love to talk to you guys, but I know I am rambling way too much. All right, signing off.